I couldn't be any more excited right now.
Those hands were filled with poop-stained underwear, which he allegedly smeared on the face of his victim.
Do you realize what percentage of your opening conversations are about bathrooms, Merrill?
Sometimes when you look through the little hole between the stalls, you can see another guy. You should just look him in the eyes the entire time.
I think you have the wrong expectations for what's going to go down here. We're going off the rails here. Maybe football instead.
It's always next year. Happy National Comic Book Day, everyone, and welcome back to the Sandlot Cast, a podcast about our uber competitive fantasy football league that probably no one other than us cares about. Anthony's here. Anthony,
Hey.
ready for week 4, man?
Hey, what is this over here? Have you noticed this before? Did it just get into the screen?
Hillers
I'm
is
ready.
here also. Hey, how's it
Yeah.
going, Hillers?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. And the Hanker Simulator is back here,
don't
too.
forget my boy here, backing me up, my sidekick, if it's National Comic Book Day.
Yeah, so how's you guys' week been going? Good?
Oh, yeah. Every week where you continue to win is good.
Yeah.
Hanker Simulator competes victory.
Yeah.
I was physically sick to my stomach just a little bit from
Yeah, I got a lot of angry texts.
general fantasy angst as it would hit me about now in any given year, but I'm getting through it.
Right. Yeah. You get
You're in
through it.
recovery.
You know, once you lose 10, 11 games a season, you start getting through it pretty quicker every year. But anyway, it's happy National Comic Book, or it's National Comic Book Day. It's also Happy National Comic Book Day. So we're going to do a little lightning round. Last week I feel like it went well and that nobody complained about it, so we'll do another lightning round about comic books.
Is that the bar we're at now?
That's the bar we're at.
No complaints, and we
Really?
continue to do it every time.
Nobody really says anything about the podcast, to be
That's
honest,
true.
other than when are you doing it? That's all
So,
we really get.
We're doing great.
So that's it. Let's get into the lightning round here. We'll start with you, and we'll do Anthony first. Hillers, actually, Hillers, you'll get to go first this time.
Super.
You go second. So, did you ever, at any point in your life, collect comic books?
No, I did not. No, I'm bad at collecting anything. Things get
Yeah.
Lost. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anthony,
definitely.
You did? Yeah. What point in your life were you collecting comic books?
Probably the
3
tween
weeks
years.
ago.
The tweeners? Okay. How many do you think you have? Or do you still have them?
I do still have them in a bin. I think I probably have about 100.
Wow, I probably have about the same. I was about like 11 or 12, I think. Yeah. All right. Superman or Batman?
For what?
Just
Do you-
answer the question.
Do you
Batman.
know what a lightning round is? Because we've been doing it for like 2
Well,
years.
yeah, but that was hardly
For
a question at
everything.
all.
For
Well, then
everything.
Batman.
Okay.
I have to choose one.
Anthony?
Batman.
Superman is out of favor.
He is. He's like... He can't make a good movie about it. I'm going to go Batman, too. He's just more interesting. Superman's boring. He does everything.
Superman hasn't been in vogue since like the 60s.
Yeah, the movies are all bad. You know, you get some kryptonite, whatever. Okay, Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Marvel. Yeah, they're cranking a lot of
Hiller's
stuff
first,
these
please.
days. Hey,
Now
now
I'll
who's
say-
messing it up?
I'll say Marvel
Poor
as well.
Sally.
Your favorite superhero?
The Hulk.
Carnage.
Carnage? He's not a hero.
That's a indie choice there.
That's
It's a
off the
Marvel
wall.
popular villain.
It is, okay. I'll go Spider-Man. So it would beat all them up.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think he'd beat the Hulk.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, who is... All right. Well, this one's kind of the same, but who do you feel like is the best superhero?
Yeah, the Hulk. That's that's why.
It's Magneto. The answer is Magneto.
Yeah? Why is that?
He can control everything.
Not the Hulk.
Well,
The Hulk can't even control the Hulk.
Nothing controls the Hulk.
Magneto's pretty strong, I guess, yeah.
Break his old ass in half.
I gotta go Superman just because, you know, he's Superman. Like, he's the Hulk, too, but he can fly and do all that stuff. Worst superhero you've ever seen?
oh, there's a lot.
Oh, I think there was a toothpaste that did a promotional superhero, and it fought cavities.
No, I'm talking like legit superheroes.
Jubilee. What the hell could she even do?
All right.
Fireworks?
Sabretooth.
Sabretooth? What was his deal? Was he just like strong?
He's a bigger Wolverine, essentially. He just always
No.
lost.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
a slightly worse fighter.
All right. I'd have to go Gambit. I always hated Gambit. I don't know why.
How is Gambit worse than Jubilee?
He
At least
threw
his explode
cards.
when they get there.
I don't
Hers
get
just
it.
makes a bright,
I mean-
funky light. How is that?
I don't know.
You're
That's pretty
wrong.
bad. Also, the Spleen of Mystery Men fame, he was pretty bad too. So, and our last one here, Hillers. This one's
Player mouse from the tick.
one's gonna be for you and me here. If you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be?
Ooh. I think I'd want to be able to tell the future. Not like the entire future necessarily, just like maybe even a few minutes in advance.
So, like Nicolas Cage in the movie Next.
Oh boy, I hope not. I don't want to overact my superhero power. Really screw it up.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think I would go with telepathy. Like, know what other people are thinking. That's telepathy, right?
The two of us would like cancel each other out in a fight then.
We would.
You know?
Because, no, I
Because
would
I
win
know what was
because
coming.
you could see the future. And then I could see the
you would
future 'cause I could
figure
read
it
your
out like
mind.
half a second later, right? It would be.
It's the best power of all time to know what people are thinking. So that concludes our lightning round.
You wouldn't
of
say
superheroes.
that if you knew I was thinking right now, Meryl.
And we had a big hit. We had a big hit last week with our new segment, the Book of Lovins. And so now we'd like to start our team overviews here with another reading from the Book of Lovins.
And now, a reading from the Book of Levins, paragraph 6. Furthermore, I told Chris prior to our game that, and I am paraphrasing here, I am deeply concerned about my matchups this week, and that he was definitely going to beat me. I know. Arrogance. Thy name is Lovins. In all seriousness, though, my matchups this week were about as attractive as a barge of infectious medical waste. And then Brandon Merriweather attempted to forcibly sodomize Eddie Lacy's ear with the crown of his helmet, and the proverbial writing was on the wall. That was a reading from the Book of Levins.
Thanks be to Lovins.
Truly, words of wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Team overviews, gentlemen. We're going to run through this as we typically do, and we're going to start, as we typically have this year, with the highest scoring team for the week, which was the team none of us can figure out because they're all over the map on our power rankings, the Dad Dicks. They beat the Sex Cannons. They put up 129.6 points to the Sex Cannons' 92, brings them to 2-2 on the year and tied for second place in the Puppet Masters division, one game back of the Assassins. Hillers, none of us can figure this team out.
No.
Can you tell us why this team may actually be a good team?
Well, yeah, I mean, because this is one of their good weeks. But every time they have a bad week, it's something else. But why it's a good team, it's easy to say on a good week. And it's at least a huge chunk of it this week was that Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham are connecting like they were back in, the whole Jimmy Graham heyday when everybody was so excited about Jimmy Graham all the time. And that must have been, I don't know, well over 50 points. Probably, 60 points worth of their 129. So you don't have to go too far to say that those two are definitely have the breakout potential. And then I might have been a little bit premature also in suggesting that I was worried about Eric Decker after a couple of weeks worth of, maybe some suspect targets, because the Broncos are just looking like a devastating offense, and clearly when he gets these targets, I mean, he's got 133 yards and 2 touchdowns here, so that alone, even if no one else played, I think could really do some damage. But it's not entirely studs and duds. He's still got some good depth with Steve Johnson and with Brian Hartline, so he's got a lot going for him. It's not a bad team.
Yeah, definitely had a good week. Had the best week of anybody here. He has shown to have bad weeks at times, though, Anthony. And where would his concern be in going back to that?
I'm going off the rails here because, well, first of all, in the words of Will Ferrell, it was hot in there. Second of all, I'm watching this game and I'm watching the Saints game here, and I'm looking at Drew Brees consistently throw to Jimmy Graham. And I was thinking about, Evan, man. Like, that is a devastating combination to have both Breeze and Graham. They've got to be some of the all-time, top 2 quarterback tight end hookups, or at least they're climbing on that list pretty quickly. So that's anytime you got to play Dad Diggs, that's dangerous. You just pray that that combination doesn't happen, and it will for us.
Dad Diggs are dangerous.
And anytime, I'll say this every week. Anytime that McFadden is still healthy, you're doing well. That's going to be the turning point, the tipping point of this team. If McFadden goes down, there's going to be hell to pay. But like Hiller said, good depth. It's hard to find a specific weakness other than maybe the lack of what you would call star power. Though I don't think that the fantasy gods care about star power. So, well, aside from Breeze.
Okay. I will say if there is a concern, is when you do have a lot invested in one team and that team has a bad game, I mean, that's where you're going to suffer. There's not a lot of diversity really on this team, but that said, he's highest score of the week. If you're going to rely on 2 people, one of the best quarterbacks and the best tight end in the league are not bad, I guess, to rely on.
You could do worse.
Yeah, I mean, he should just change his team into the Jimmy Breezes or something like that. But, it's a good team. We've had him all over the place in the power rankings. We'll see where he ends up with now. And Hillary, you mentioned Decker. I mean, he just basically won the Denver lottery this week. I mean, somebody's going to every week.
Right.
Welker's always going to put up his points, but somebody's going to hit that lottery every week, and sometimes it's more than one person. So you got to start Decker because I'd be terrified to sit him. The other thing that's happening is he's getting Le'Veon Bell back this week, which is going to be a nice addition. I think they're saying he's probably going to play this week. So that could kind of bolster his running back core a little bit. I don't know. I guess he sits Steve Smith maybe and starts Le'Veon Bell since Smith is on bye.
You think those receivers do rock, paper, scissors to figure out who's going to win that lottery each week?
That may be what they do, since that's apparently how they decide things. And we're trying to analyze fantasy football, and they're doing rock, paper, scissors to determine who gets touchdowns.
There's some strategy to it. Start with scissors.
Yeah, indeed. Assassins, our next team here. By the way, Hillers, I know you were putting together some Brad Caver double down, so if we come across any teams where there were any, please just let me know and stop us.
Oh, yeah, I really got to keep on that there, but I think we were good for that last one.
The Assassins are our next team. They beat Dave 107.7 to 71.3. That brings them to 3-1 in first place in the Puppet Masters division, still hanging on to first. And Anthony, I'm going to saddle you with a task that you never really wanted in the first place.
Nope.
And you're going to have to give this team some praise.
So I can do that, I think, this week. I got to give Brad some kudos for being active on the waiver wire, despite spending nearly all of his free agent money thus far. He's been active enough to keep his lineup populated with starters, despite all the holes and injuries on his roster. Shane Vereen, he's going to be out for some time. Steven Jackson goes down. He fills it up with Jason Snelling. Good pickup on Snelling. I think he could have picked up Snelling or Jaquiz Rogers. Pretty unfortunate name there, but he could have picked either one up.
It sounds like a dirty name, doesn't it? Jaquiz. I mean, it sounds like something that would happen in a video that Well, anyway.
It sounds like if you were to like.
You gotta play the joke all the way through in your mind, Merrill.
Like.
You know where I'm going.
Like a body slap, like chest bump somewhere, somebody wearing like a suit of water balloons, the sound it would make would be Jaquiz.
Okay.
I guess.
That's not where I was going with it, but...
so then he'll, and again, we're unsure about his Edelman pickup. Yeah, it didn't pan out for... Edelman hasn't panned out since really that first or second week or I guess that first week since he did really well. But he's serviceable as, maybe a low-end flex guy. And
there's a receiver like that every year where they have one or two games and somebody pays way too much. Usually it's me. And by way too much, I usually mean like $15 rather than $30. But, maybe there's some value there. So.
How much cap does he have left? How much money?
Not much.
Not much.
I don't have it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
The least amount.
Right.
But could hurt him in the playoffs.
This is an example where activity in your team pays off. You don't lose a couple of games and bow out for the season. You keep on trying. You get out there and you find that effing dog.
Yeah.
That was inspirational. Thank you.
It was. Hillers, do you think it will last? And if
Well, no, I mean, I'll turn that go out and spend the money right on its head to say if you go out and spend half your free agent budget.
He has $28 left, by the way.
Yeah, 28 out of 80. And I imagine with these kind of guys on the bench, and even in the starting lineup, with Edelman and Snelling and guys like Kenny Stills on the bench, that he's probably going to need, and Andre Ellington, he's going to need some more free agents in there. And when it comes to playoff time and he has $2, he's going to be able to get nothing. People will be able to block him on defenses and kickers. I mean, he hasn't even started the bye weeks yet. So I really think this. I understand he needs players, but it's also demonstrating a bit of a lack of discipline in the long-term planning. And I know I'm not usually the person preaching that, but you really have to keep it in mind. So try to do that.
But Hillers, but by that time, by playoff time, Steven Jackson and Shane Breen are going to be back in the lineup.
You think?
I mean,
have you seen some of the lineups that have gone into playoffs? They're ridiculous. I've been starting a half a team full of guys that no one had even heard of and come out of wild card games with them. You know what I mean? And you need at least a little bit of money, or people just pick up players they know you need just to block you. You know, even if it's a defense or something.
Well, Hillers, the other thing I just want to point out to kind of emphasize, to go with your Brad Caver double down. Last week you said you can't start Brandon Jacobs and be a winner in any league.
And he's not starting Brandon Jacobs.
And
if he had, I don't know, we wouldn't have lost, I guess. But Brandon Jacobs only got 2 yards, so
he's terrible.
terrible.
Okay, but and we talk about the, I guess, financial discipline of this team. It goes back to the draft, right? I mean, he spent everything he had within the first 10 minutes on Tom Brady and Steven Jackson and had no money left, and it ended up hurting him. And now he's had to spend a lot early in the season of his fab because he's got to recover from that, right?
Given great opportunity, I think we've just seen that Watson prematurely finishes.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. And
that's a persistent
maybe
problem.
That's why he didn't want Jaquiz on his team. I don't know.
It's just...
But he... it's a good team. He has made great moves so far, and he's picked up a lot of the guys that I think other people had bids in on, and it's worked out so far. I think he will fade down the stretch as the bye weeks come, for reasons you guys stated. As the bye weeks come, he's not going to have the money to bid on those guys. As injuries happen to his team down the road, which they will, he's not going to have the money to replace those guys. He's going to get blocked, and that's where it's going to hurt him. So he's going to start strong, but he's gonna fade in the end.
So he has a bye this week with Jordy Nelson. So having to put any one of his bench guys in there is going to be a problem for him.
It is, yeah.
Having said that, though, I still think he could beat most of the teams in this league with his current starting lineup.
True. Yeah.
You made a statement. This isn't a Brad Caver double down, but you made a statement in the last week's podcast that 102 points isn't cutting it anymore. And I think this week shows you that it can still usually cut it.
Not usually. I won't say usually because I think our average points this year are around
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams. 102 points would have beat this week. So maybe a little premature on that.
Maybe. But you're looking at 1 week. I was looking at the first 3 weeks, and the average of the first 3 weeks I think was like 107 points per game. So, your 1 week research is pretty good, I guess. But I'll go with
small
my 3
sample
week research
sizes
and say,
for both. So.
Yeah, yours is smaller than mine though.
Yours is much smaller over the long term.
Way smaller.
And has a history of sizability.
Feisty Goats are our next team. Speaking of bigger things. They lose to the Chupanibres 88.5 to 97 and fall to 0-4 on the season. We are firmly in last place and 3 games back of the Assassins. Anthony, give me some good news.
You have to be happy about Russell Wilson. Personally, I didn't think he was ever going to, not even going to have one game where he kind of broke out of the funk, so to speak.
Oh, I got to break in there, Anthony. You just touched on a Brad Caver double down. Last week you said Russell Wilson is a freaking dud. Brad Cave or double down?
I'm going to double down on that one. So here's why.
It's so inconsistent.
What
are we to make of this?
I'm going to double down and say this one is a fluke. Because there were 2 touchdowns that came out of Russell Wilson's performance that, arguably should have been Marshawn Lynch touchdowns. I mean, he just barely or didn't barely cross the line, and they ended up throwing both of them to Zach Miller. So you take away those 2 touchdowns, and now Russell Wilson puts up 16.4 points, or just a little bit less than that, and that is a poo-poo performance for a
If you
starting
take away
quarterback.
3 of Peyton Manning's touchdowns, he only puts up what?
I know, right? I view it the same way though. Every time anyone runs in a touchdown for any reason in Green Bay, I'm like, that was an Aaron Rodgers touchdown.
Look here,
By rights.
Merrill, before you go, that he threw for 202 yards. Okay, and I know
In
that
one
in
half,
in
by the way.
1995, 202 yards was a lot of yards in a game, but nowadays it's not.
What
And
about
a lot for a half.
what about in a half? Because they pulled him in the third quarter.
I don't care. I don't care what they do.
Okay. Because that's 400 yards for a game, which I don't care what year it is. That's good.
All right. Well, you got me there.
What else is good? What else is good, Anthony?
Hillers,
Other than Russell
You
Wilson
got
being
Merrill
a-
defending his team.
Other than Russell
it's
Wilson
so nice
being a
to see.
fluke, what else is good?
It's like a breakthrough at a battered women's shelter. Anytime
And-
he praises anyone on his team.
So what else is good is Jamar Charles still doing well, still healthy, and Julius Thomas, man, nice work on that, and also nice work on playing the double tight ends this week. I think that was at our suggestion. And hey, Josh Gordon's back, and it looks like he's going to be pretty solid on a maybe a Cleveland team that has something to prove. So I would start and continue to start Josh Gordon from here on out.
Even against the Bengals next week?
You know they're going to be down each game, and they're going to be throwing like crazy, and they're going to air it out a couple times. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, well, to the guy that will now be triple covered, Josh Gordon, because it's clear that's the only
Jordan
one they're
Cameron,
throwing to
too.
around it.
They may
Well, and
not-
Jordan Cameron in the red zone, right?
Yeah.
But,
all right, Hillers. What
so-
went wrong this week?
Well, a few things went wrong. I mean, a few guys went right, but pretty much everybody else went wrong here. I mean, I'm looking at the entire middle of your bench, and you got David Wilson, Larry Fitzgerald, Dwayne Bowe, and let's see. Well, I guess you can't be blamed for poor kicker and defensive performances. But, I mean, you're clearly riding, exceptional performances from 2 guys and a good performance from 1 guy just to get to 88. I'm still not seeing any sort of huge breakthrough game here. It's even when your quarterback and your main running back do well, you still got trenched a little bit. And just the bad luck alone. It's not like there's no hope. I mean, MJD and Josh Gordon. I mean, you've got guys on your bench to put in there. Half of your problem is knowing which guys to bench and which guys to put in the lineup.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're faced with such close decisions all the time, you're going to make some ones that just aren't correct, even if the good money was on them. So.
Yeah, I mean, if I
think
started
you're
the right guys, I'd have 120 plus points.
Yeah, you would have won the game.
So,
But I think that's a problem that's probably going to crop up a few times for you. It's like there's a lot of guys that are very close, and some of it's just going to be subject to whims of any particular game, as your team has been for 23 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, so in this game, I went to bed Sunday night, and I had, I think I was up by like 35 points, and he only had a defense, a kicker, and Wes Welker to go, and I still had my tight end. I was like, all right, I'm pretty good. I woke up, I was only up 13 points because the frickin' Steelers' offense is terrible, and Ben Roethlisberger just wants to hand the ball to the Bears and let them run it into the end
It
zone.
really does.
So anyway, then Monday night comes, and Wes Welker, right out of the gate, 50-yard field goal for his kicker. Wes Welker catches a touchdown, and boom, we're tied in within 5 minutes. So at that point, it was over. But I mean, I think you can look at this game and just say, I got 5 points out of my kicker and defense, and he got 43. So there's your game right there, because we both had dud wide receivers, we both had a dud running back. We were pretty even until you get there, and then he just absolutely crushed me. So
One more statement for you here, Mike, and not to pile on too much, but some of these were just too interesting to leave. For brag, cave, or double down, a loss to the Chupanibres ends my season. Is your season over?
most likely, yeah. I mean, it's going to take a crazy run at this point. I basically can only lose 3 games the rest of the way. I think 9-7 wins our division, but I'm in such a hole right now in points for that a tiebreaker is probably not gonna do it for me. So
those of us interested in fire sales should approach you at this time?
yeah,
or-
but like a guy like Jamal Charles or David Wilson are not really fire sale candidates because they're cheap and potential keepers. So people need to know what they're asking for.
Still keeping David Wilson, huh? All right.
Yeah.
Don't stop
No, I
believing.
didn't say I was keeping him, but he's a potential keeper. I'd say.
Can we talk about David Wilson? I don't want to belabor on your team too much, but can we talk about David Wilson?
It's an interesting team.
So the guy, yeah, he's a great keeper value. He's young, and he doesn't appear to have too much competition as a Giants starting running back. However,
He's going to get some competition. He's got 5 points on the season. They're going to get somebody.
So that's the thing. For a guy that hasn't put up he hasn't broken the 4-point barrier in fantasy. What are your thoughts on him, Mike? I mean, how do you continue to I mean, keep him, yeah, but even start him with confidence at all, how can you do that?
Well, I can't right now. I mean, that I can't do. I can hang on to him, though, because I think he's had some rough matchups. One, at Dallas week 1, he fumbled early and twice and got pulled from that game, so he didn't really play anymore. At Denver, they got down big in a hurry, so the run game kind of went out the window, and he was still kind of earning his way back. And then at Carolina's front seven is really good. They shut down Marshawn Lynch and the Seahawks. They've got I think a really good defense. So he's got at KC this week. I think that's going to be another rough week. But after that, I think he's going to roll a little bit. I mean, he goes to Philly, then he's got at Chicago, that stuff. But then it's Minnesota, Philly, Oakland. I think that's when the schedule opens up a little bit. By then, it might be too late for my team in particular. But he had a run this week, a 19-yard touchdown run. They got called back for a penalty. I mean, he had some good runs that looked good that got called back. I believe in his talent. I think the problem with David Wilson is the team around him, not necessarily David Wilson. Unfortunately, the team around him is not going anywhere.
Yeah, Giants are dumpster fire.
But if they can get some type of blocking or stay in the game in some way and establish a run game, I think he's going to be really, really good. And I think his talent is legit. But right now, his situation is not.
So the Chupanibres also have a crummy giant. Hakeem Nicks put up a goose egg for him this week.
Yeah, I was.
But they still struggled through.
Because I let him go in the offseason. But yeah. All right, let's move on. That's the end of our division there, Anthony. Puppet Masters, with Brad in the lead and you chasing.
I don't think you. Did we do my team?
Oh no, I'm sorry. You're right. You're next. I forgot about you.
Took all the time talking about Merrill's team.
Yeah, so let's talk about another one of our teams, which people love hearing about. Sorry for going so long on David Wilson there.
You have some detailed thoughts.
Yeah, been thinking a lot about it. So the EBS comes in. They lose to Hillers in a podcast battle.
Yay.
73.4 to 90.9. Fall to 2-2 on the season, tied for second place, but only one game back of the Assassins, who I think we all think might fade down the stretch. Hillers, Anthony did not put up a good score here, but is there anything he can be encouraged about?
Oh, sure. I mean, Matthew Stafford is still good. Despite your claims that Ben Jarvis Green Ellis is going to be a problem for Gio over the course of the season, I just don't think so. I mean, every time he's out there, he's clearly outperforming him. He's faster, he looks stronger, he gets better yardage before and after contact. So I think that's going to really be a good player for him and maybe even like a rising star. I don't know if I'm willing to buy in yet at keeping him next year at what would be $43, but I mean, you have to love what you're seeing out of him so far. And for the guys that did bad, there's maybe just a little bit of fluky underperformance at play with guys like with Marshawn Lynch and even probably Roddy White there. And he has depth to counteract it. A little bit less depth. Sorry about Nate Burleson there, Anthony.
Oh, I don't care.
It was pizza-related injury. That's kind of crummy.
Wait, what happened with him? I heard something about that.
He was in a car crash, a single car crash, because he took his eyes off the road because his pizza was falling over. He reached back to get it, and he broke his arm.
Oh my God!
Is out for the season with all the surgery that's going to happen.
That's something that happens to my team.
Pizza injury, right? Yeah, it's a little unusual. And that plus the Bradshaw thing really does cut down on your depth. But I mean, I still think you've got some guys in there that can make some hay. So don't give up.
I would break my arm for a pizza too, just to put it on the record.
What's on the pizza? It's just cheese, or...
No, guys, just relax for a second. So the Nate Burleson pickup was going to be a 1-week flyer for me to play as a flex guy, but then I kind of chickened out last minute and played Marlon Brown. It turned out to be a bad decision for me, but fortunately it wouldn't have made a difference as far as the win. So I don't lose too much sleep over it.
Right. Hillers, I'm going to jump in. You said you don't think Ben Jarvis Green Ellis is going to be a problem for Gio Brown. I'm not sure where you're getting that, but their touches this year, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis in the first 3 games was 15, 23, 10. And Gio, while his carries are going up, 5, 9, 14, Benjaris-Gonzalez isn't going away. He's still going to be there. They're still going to split
well,
carries.
Gio's points keep going up. I mean, with 3, 18,
I don't care about
16.
points. Points
Well,
are they don't tell
points
who's getting the
means
ball and
success.
how often a guy's on the
99 yards
field.
and a touchdown is really good. What did Law Firm do this week?
Right, but what if he's on the field for 2 plays and he gets 99 yards and a touchdown?
Well, I don't know how a coach keeps a guy on the field for 2 plays when he's clearly the better one.
Right. Yeah,
That's
me
what I'm
either.
saying.
But coaches don't always, go by your analysis of what talent is on the football field. So
Okay, well, they can just go by statistics then. That should work too.
I'm just saying you go by touches. You're saying you don't see how Benjaris is a problem. I'm saying if it's a 50-50 timeshare split, then he is a problem.
I'm saying it won't be that way very long.
Mike, I think it's going to go down. If you look at the effectiveness of the run, clearly Bernard, he looks better. He's being more effective with his touches, and he's holding on to the ball. I mean, the Law Firm fumbled it,
yeah,
last
he
week.
can't wait to cough it up.
And in a one possession game.
Benjaris is not a fumbler. He
That's
never
not what
fumbled
last
when he
week
was with the
said.
Patriots.
All right, enough squabbling. Let's move on.
Okay.
He's going to be around, and we're still going to be talking about Green Ellis in Week 10. So Gio's a good start. He's the
Hiller's-
guy I would rather have. I'm not
Hiller's
saying-
marked
We'll be
down.
talking about him as a Brad Caver double down, and you'll hang
That's exactly right. Booyah.
Okay. I would rather have Gio Bernard on the air, but Green Ellis is not going away. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
As far as the bad, Anthony, just to
Should
kind
have
of
write that down.
linger on your team a little longer here. You only had this is just a bad week for you touchdown wise. You only had 1 touchdown on your team other than Matt Stafford. And whenever that happens, you usually, if you have a good yardage week otherwise, then you usually end up in the 60 to 70 point range. And that's what got you here. You had a lack of touchdowns. The Marlon Brown start, it was a gamble, didn't pay off. I'm not sure what your fascination with that guy is, but you really like starting him over other people.
Well, he's the
And,
leading receiver on the old Ravens there. That's,
Yeah, and
that's
you were
what
giving
it's
him props
He
for
does
starting
more
him
yards
last
than Torrey
week
Smith?
against advice.
Actually, I don't know about that.
Okay. And unfortunately, you missed out on Bradshaw's probably last great performance, although I'm curious to think, what you think after seeing this week, if you think it'll be more of a time split or if you think Trent Richardson's going to come in and take those yards away from him.
So I actually think that Bradshaw may be worth holding on to and playing in the flex every now and then because it's not like he's bad. It's not like he's a bad player. He's a talented running back when he's healthy. I think if you limit his touches, it's going to keep him healthier for longer. And I think that we're going to see similar to the I forget who the running backs were, but the Vic Ballard timeshare last year with was it Donald Brown?
Donald Brown.
There was some,
Except way better.
I thought there was somebody else.
As good as that.
I thought there was somebody else in there, but I think that it's similar.
Joseph Adai.
Was it Adai?
I think he was still
I
around.
think it was.
So I think you're going to see that again with Richardson and Bradshaw, but it's going to be like you said a much better timeshare. So I think that Bradshaw has value moving forward. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, he's not totally worthless. I thought for sure Trent Richardson was going to run wild, but yeah, bad week for you. But I think you just got a little unlucky on touchdowns.
Well, I'd like to say something about that, but we'll wait till we get to Dave's team for it.
Okay, Surly Podcasters division is next, and we're going to start with the best performer in their division, which was Touchdown Jesus, who beat the Lightsaber Tooth Tigers like they stole something, 125.1 to 70. That gives them their first win on the year. They go to 1-3. Unfortunately, that's last place in the division, and they're 3 games back of you Hillers. But Anthony, we're going to start with the good here, and I'm just going to start with a quote from you last week. You said, "I still don't trust Cam Newton as a fantasy quarterback. This might be the top end of a Cam Newton score at 19.5. How do you feel about Cam Newton now?
It doesn't change anything.
Damn right.
Clearly,
I had Brad Caver double down for myself. I don't believe in Cam Newton. I'm doubling down.
It's
I'm
not
right
Anthony,
with you.
by the way.
I know, but it's the same statement, and I'm right with you.
We'll get to
Go,
you.
Anthony.
Pipe down.
okay.
You said to chime in with him. Make up your mind, Merrill.
So, I guess the 19.5 top end was wrong, but I just don't see Cam Newton doing this a lot. I don't believe in the Carolina Panthers. I think they're going to get smushed all over the place, and they just caught sort of a Giants team at a good time, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, a time when they suck. They're terrible right now.
So doubling down on your Cam Newton quote. Okay, is there anything? I mean, this is a good performance by Touchdown Jesus. Do you think this performance continues? Do you think this is a good team?
No, I still do not think it's a good team. A lot of target, and I'll quickly go through the list. Ryan Matthews, dude is terrible. Matt Forte, okay, I like
Pretty
Matt
bad.
Forte. Roll with him as if you wouldn't. Colston, dude's in his twilight, and there's a lot of targets on that team, and Jimmy Graham's obviously the favorite target.
He's 30.
Since Nate Burleson, that's twilight, man.
Okay.
Nate Burleson goes down with a pizza-related injury, and now Calvin Johnson's all alone, so he's going to see even more coverage. And yeah, you're going to say, okay, who cares how much coverage is on Calvin Johnson? It's still Calvin Johnson. I get it, but he's going to get even more attention now because there's no other receivers on that team.
22-point Ravens defensive performance is probably not something you can count on every week either.
Yeah, and the defense and the Heath Miller thing, Miller time ain't working. It's just this is a team on its best week of the year.
Wow. Okay. Strong statements by Anthony. All right, Hillers. Now it's your time. I'm going to give you your quotes from last week, and you can tell me about them.
Well, I just gave you one, and I'm
They
doubling
have
down.
Sam Bradford they can start if Cam Newton goes down, which it looks like he's doing. And then you also said, I do not believe Cam Newton is going to be able to manage even what they are giving him at 19 points when
Yeah.
we were talking about the projections for
So I was
season.
wrong about the 19 points because I underestimated how crummy the Giants' defense is.
And you're still wrong about
Which
Sam Bradford.
which everyone did, and I'm not wrong about Sam Bradford. Sam
You love
Bradford
that guy.
is a very startable quarterback. He's got 22, 31, and 15 points on the season. That's really good.
Would you want him as your starting quarterback? I'll ask you
Over
again.
Rodgers? No.
Would you want him as your starting quarterback on your fantasy team?
No, he's
In
not
this
going to
league.
beat Aaron Rodgers. Let's go crazy here.
I'm not. If you don't have Rodgers, would you be comfortable with him as your starting quarterback?
Right now, yeah, I think I would.
Okay. All right.
Because compared to who? Colin Kaepernick?
Compared to, I don't know, the 12
Alex Smith?
quarterbacks who were in
Who
front of
are
him.
we talking about here?
Yeah,
Jay
compared to
Cutler?
Colin Kaepernick. You'd rather have
Yes.
Sam Bradford than Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Numbers back me up thus far.
Mike, I might agree with Hillers on this one.
Wow. Okay. All right. All right. I'm glad this is on tape.
Who's your starting quarterback?
Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I'd rather have him than Russell Wilson.
Okay.
How about that?
I'll take both those guys over Sam Bradford on the air.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this sounds like a vodka eyeball bet. The Russell
I'm
Wilson.
not putting vodka in my eyeball. I took that off the table week one.
That's not happening. No.
It was worth a
No.
shot.
All right. So Hillers, what do you think of TDJ here? Just give us a
Am
quick.
I going to say some good things?
Just tell us what you think of the team.
Is it,
Anthony's messing
it's
it all up.
not as terrible as Anthony makes it out to be. You know, Calvin Johnson and Des Bryant are going to be a consistent threat week in and week out. You know, I do think 125 points may be sort of on the high end for them, but I could see them easily putting up, around 100 and get a pretty solid record that way. He started out in a bit of a hole, but I don't think he's going to end up as this division's worst team.
Okay. I'll just
No
say
depth.
I predicted
That's
they would
a
get.
problem.
I predicted they'd get off the schneid this week. I was right on that. I think this is a really good team. Honestly, I do. Their record doesn't reflect how good they are. I think they had some bad weeks. Cam Newton gets bashed a lot, but he was the number 3 fantasy quarterback his rookie year, the number 7 fantasy quarterback last year, and I think he's going to be well on his way to at least a top 10, if not another top 6 or 7 quarterback this year.
They've only really had one bad week in the 70s. You know,
Yeah,
last
this is a
week
good
was
team.
over
I mean,
100 too.
Yeah, he's got a bad RB2, but RB2s are crushing everybody in this league. Nobody has a good RB2 in this league, really.
I do.
Well, there's very few teams that do. So teams are struggling. The running back position is a disaster. Just look across the way here at Nick, who's got Ridley, Sproles, and Moreno as his running back. But so his RB2's bad, but Forte is a legit RB1 this year. He's getting goal line carries, which he never got in the past, and I think that's really going to boost him up to the next level. And then he's got the best wide receiving core in the league, at least the best one, too. He's got Des Bryant and Calvin Johnson. Doesn't get much better than that at receiver. Yeah, Heath Miller didn't do anything this week, but this was his first week back from injury. He was the number 2 tight end in fantasy last year, I think, and I think he'll be fine. And then you look down at the
Tight end rankings mean nothing. It's complete. That one means nothing. I'm sorry.
they mean nothing.
They mean nothing.
They mean nothing when you choose. They mean nothing, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then he's got Monty Ball down there at the bottom, that he can plug in if he ever starts getting carries, if he wants to get involved in that.
Really? I was going to say
paperwork
when.
Yeah, but he's maybe more of a long-term option for this
You
team.
better hope.
But hey, it's better than Ryan Matthews, right? All right. So TDJ, I think they're a legit team. I think they're gonna make some noise, and they're gonna be coming for you, Hillers, and you are our next team.
Oh, all right.
You
Well, we
beat-
do play each other next week, so we'll see in the predictions.
You beat EBS 90.9 to 73.4. You put up a lower score than you have been putting up. You go to 4-0 on the year. You are in first place, the only undefeated team left in the league at 4-0. And I guess I'll just start by, I'll take the good here because Anthony, this one's easy for Hiller's team. I mean, it's a bad day for Rogers. You still pulled out 90 points and escaped with a win. So you had a pedestrian quarterback performance, which you don't get a lot.
No.
And you still escaped. So that's obviously a positive. DeMarco Murray showed some life. I bet you wish he could play the Rams every week.
I really do.
I think the last time he played the Rams, he put up like 200 yards also. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. And then Bilal Powell, you've got to be a little encouraged about too, because he seems to be the guy for the Jets now. Everybody was all Chris Ivory hype. Well, not everybody. There were some on this podcast.
Nick certainly was. Thanks
There were
for
some on this
Brandon Marshall,
podcast
Nick.
who didn't believe in Chris Ivory. But you've got to be happy about what Bilal Powell's doing. I mean, he's nothing. He's not. You don't want him as your RB1, but as a flex guy, you can plug in at times. I think that's totally legit. So,
It's great.
not a great performance by your team, Hillers, but it was good enough. And if this is your worst week, you're going to be just fine. So, Anthony, is there?
Yeah, I mean,
should there be concern here?
Well, so I just want to say that if you had told me before the game started that Rodgers would score 12 points, his team wouldn't have a receiving touchdown, and Reggie Bush was going to be out all in 1 week, the week that I played him, I would have put money that I would win. So it was pretty devastating that my
you
team
were pissed.
couldn't execute. That said, what's bad on his team? I mean, I don't know. When all those things happen, and on top of that, Amendola's out, who is his wide receiver 2 on this team.
Yeah.
When all 4 of those things happen, and he still puts up 90 points, which is still good in my opinion in this league. What's there to be unhappy about?
Not much.
Not
I gotta
much.
say.
I mean, so if you had to pick on something, do we question the durability of Reggie Bush? Yeah, maybe. Well, it's easy to question the durability of Amendola. So I don't know. Maybe the weakness here is durable players, but his score's fine. So moving on.
That's your $29 Bobby Rainey pick up there, Hillers.
$19, and it was idiotic. It was. I really should have.
Was that a mistake?
Yeah. Well,
Did you put the 9 in there by mistake?
Yeah, it was supposed to be like 9 or 1, and somehow they both got in there.
It was a mistake because I failed to do adequate research there, and I went so far as to say, the Browns have lost their running back. Who's their backup running back? And I put the bid in prior to figuring out that they had signed Willis McGahee. And didn't really get back to the news in time. Giant mistake. Huge error, very stupid.
What more research do you have to do than seeing the Cleveland Browns and then seeing the name Bobby Rainey? Isn't that just enough to be like,
if it was one more starting running back for a team that I know runs a fair bit, it would have been worth $19. But now he's just a Cleveland Brown backup and worth $0. So, yeah, major mistake. I can't defend it. It was just a cock up, but at least I'm doing it on the bench this year instead of in my starting lineup. So growth from last year in terms of the idiocy.
I had to go look up who Bobby Rainey was. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on who's in this league and who backups are and everything. I was like $19 on who? What's going on?
Must have come as a shock.
Yeah. Way to escape with a victory here, though, Hillers.
Yeah. Thanks.
Dave is our next team. He loses to the Assassins, 71.3 to 107.7. Another disappointing week. Well, every week's going to be disappointing after his week 1 performance. But that brings him to 2-2 on the year.
Another team that peaks too early.
And he's now tied for second in the division and 2 games back of Hillers. Anthony, give Dave some good news here. Why should he not be concerned?
Oh, I think he has every reason for concern. But if I have to give a reason, Christ, maybe D'Angelo.
Way to be positive.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's the obvious lack of touchdowns here, which maybe you could turn that into a positive and say, if there had been more touchdowns, he would have scored higher. I don't know, but D'Angelo Williams, now that Jonathan Stewart is in the mix, he's getting more touches, and I guess he's doing something with them this year, so that's sort of a good thing. But that's only a matter of time because D. Will's gonna, Stewart will come back, and then D. Will will go back to being D. Will. I don't know. He gets
had
Eddie
a
Lacy
bad week
back.
from Cruz, right? A bad week from Cruz. That doesn't help. I mean,
Well, he
Cruz
asked me to talk about the good.
well, that is good. I think that's something to be encouraged about. I mean, he only got 2 points from Victor Cruz, which is
How was that a good thing?
well, normally he gets more, so that's
Yeah.
why it's good. It's like, well, he had a bad week, but he can be encouraged because it was a bad week because Victor Cruz is going to score more in the future.
Are we talking about the good? I got a couple of good things.
Let's just talk about Dave's team here. Just tell me what you think of Dave's team, man.
Okay, well, I mean,
Anthony.
nothing is.
I'm going to defer to Hillers on this. Yeah, I think he's got the right.
Well, nothing has changed in that this team depends entirely on, well, less Giants now. He clearly has a starting quarterback because you can't start Eli Manning the way he's playing, so he knows who to start. He won't be making bad decisions. And when the Niners have a good week, this team will. And, maybe the Colts defense was a little more stout than they expected, and so they didn't get a lot of touchdowns. But, when they play the Rams next week, it'll look better from Bolden, and maybe he can put Vernon Davis in there.
He's hurt.
He's got guys he can play. You know what I mean? And Demaryius Thomas, okay, he didn't get a touchdown, but he got 94 yards. That's hardly anything to complain about. And Victor Cruz did underperform. It's just it was probably a couple of yards separating this from a respectable performance. The Broncos' defense getting only 4 points was kind of, a blow to a team that kind of needs everybody to perform here. And Martellus Bennett getting 1 point is clearly an underperformance. So it's a bit of a weak week. You know what I mean? I see this team more as a 100-point team than a 70-point
I like the alliteration
team.
there. Weak. Very nice. That is alliteration, right?
Close enough.
So, Anthony, you said you had something to say about Dave's team?
They're homophones.
I wanted to make a general observation here, and that's did you guys notice? I mean, so we've mentioned a couple of times the overall lack of touchdowns, and you kind of look team to team, and the numbers of rushing and receiving touchdowns from the positional players here. I guess they're all positional players, but rushing and receiving touchdowns,
Not quarterbacks, basically, right?
very, very low.
Yeah.
So tally across the league: 9 total rushing touchdowns, 13 receiving rushing touchdowns. So it's a total of 22 rushing or receiving touchdowns. And if you do the average across 12, that's not even 2 per team. But now you take out the tight ends from that equation, and you're down to 6 receiving touchdowns.
Yes.
So, I mean, it was a awful, awful week for touchdowns from the good fantasy dudes. And I kind of wanted to do this with Levin's team because if you want to put it in perspective for Levin's week 1, okay, he only had 2 rushing touchdowns, but he had 8 receiving touchdowns across his team. When you compare that to this week, total across the league was 13, so 5 less than the league total.
Right. Yeah, it was just a low scoring week. It was a weird low scoring week in the league. I mean,
People
I remember
were doing
I was looking at it like late Sunday afternoon. I'm like, man, nobody has any points. I'm like, when is somebody going to get over 100? I mean, it was just nothing was happening.
Even the dog left my house during the Packers game this last week. I was losing it.
I bet you were. All right, Wingay finishes out this division, Masters of Elegance. They beat PBJ in the worst game maybe ever in the history of our league. No team should get a victory from this game. They won 57.4 to 51.7. Shame on them. They are now 2-2 on the year, tied for second and 2 games back of Hillers. Hillers, what's going on with the Wingay here?
Yeah, this
we
is
liked them
another
last
team
week.
that seemed to be all over the place. I mean, what are they doing to me here? It's like, oh, wow, look how great they're looking. And then I look at them this week and I go, ugh, how did I ever think that? Was I drunk? It's like, but the Eagles, I guess, did much, much better last week than they did this week. And LaShawn McCoy still flipped out and got, 21 points. Anything over 20 I consider a great performance. And the rest of this is just a huge pile of suck.
Well, and McCoy got hurt, remember, and he left.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't have come back,
Right.
this team's like 45.
Imagine LaShawn McCoy leaves this team, and the rest of it is now looking like, it's very scary, And I know Daryl Richardson was sort of like a game time call, but dude, you check the pregame.
He played the first snap and got hurt and went out again. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I thought he was out altogether. Okay, I retract that statement then. I must have tuned in 3 minutes into the game. But, and the rest of it is probably just receivers being a little bit inconsistent sometimes. It's like that's why everyone used to say, oh, well, you want running backs is, they get the ball more, they get more touches, at least they're going to get a certain amount of points. That's clearly no longer true, but it doesn't mean that the wide receivers have become these week after week consistent producers either. I mean, 3 guys that look pretty good, T.Y. Hilton, Deshaun Jackson, and Tavon Austin last week, now look like a bunch of bums. And I think maybe you're just going to have to ride those waves. And I cannot believe they won this game. I wanted to hand them a loss anyway.
Anthony, what happened here, man? I mean, is this just a fluky performance, or is this kind of closer to what this team is?
So I don't know anymore. I've been pretty high. I've been pretty high on the Winier. With 3 data points, it's either going to fall one way or the other. And for guys like Tavon, so I think that Deshaun Jackson's been solid, even with only 62 points. That's still good. That guy's
That's good.
playing.
Right.
He's playing well. He's all over the place. But guys like T.Y. Hilton, so week 1 you're like, oh, 2 points. What's up with that? They got to feed him the ball more. And then week 2 it's like, oh, there you go. 12 points. That's the way it ought to be. But now we're back down to there's regression back down to 1 point, and you're like, okay, well, so
and
which
4
is the real
targets.
Which is the real T.Y. Hilton here? And now I'm not sure. I mean, is he getting and Indianapolis? I mean, they had a tough matchup, but they were still throwing the ball a lot. So
they ran it a lot too, though.
I mean, was he getting less targets because he was covered more? Maybe he's more recognizable as like the deep threat on that team, so he's drawing the number 1 style coverage. I don't know what's up with him. I was really high on T.Y. Hilton, and now I'm starting to lean towards maybe he's not the guy that we thought he was. And then Tavon Austin, almost the same situation here. For being crushed as badly as St. Louis was in that game against Dallas, you'd think they would be throwing that ball all over the place.
Dallas is a pretty tough defense, though. I mean,
Sam Bradford was getting a lot of pressure, so maybe that was the case. But I expect him.
Sam Bradford should be able to handle that. He's the best quarterback of all time.
That's true.
He's a startable quarterback, and he's better than Alex Smith.
So those 2 wide receivers are the biggest downsides on this team right now. Even if only one of them panned out, it wouldn't be so bad, but it looks like neither of them might be panning out just yet. Still a little early to think that, but it's kind of heading that direction.
We got a Brad Caver double down here. Okay. I said last week, Cutler and Smith are both solid quarterbacks. I can't. They're not solid quarterbacks. They're on the low end of mediocre this season, and that makes them bad. I would rather have quarterbacks on the bench of other teams, including probably so far this year Phillip Rivers that Brett had on his bench over either one of those 2 guys. I don't know what I was thinking. Just because they put up adequate points 1 week.
I don't either. I'm
They're
with
crap.
you. I was on that from the beginning, though.
You were right about that. I said, no, these are solid guys, but I was wrong. I don't know why I said that.
Cutler's a good bye week fill-in, kind of a backup guy, but Alex Smith is not someone you want to have to rely on, especially after watching him on that Thursday night game. God, he just won't throw the ball. It's awful.
Neither one's a starter in a 12-team league.
He gets Gronkowski back here probably either this week or next week, so that's going to give him a little boost, hopefully, if he can stay healthy. The funny thing about this game, there was 1 touchdown in this game. Offense, defense, quarterback, receiver, running back, period. There was 1 touchdown in this entire matchup, and that was the difference. And Winier got it from McCoy, and if they didn't get that, they lose. Like the team that got the touchdown won this game, which was crazy. I don't know if that's ever happened before. But so that's kind of crazy. He's got major QB problems. I think we knew this coming in. Him and Dave were kind of behind the 8 ball with quarterback. Do you start Jay Cutler or Alex Smith each week? That's never something I want to have to ask myself. And
not where you want. How did I get here?
Yeah, it's come to this. And LaShawn McCoy, if he didn't come back from that injury in Kansas City and score that touchdown, then this team would not have won, and they would have lost a game where their opponent scored 51 points. Which would have been just horrid. So
even worse than this.
Slap yourself for something. Yeah, just get out. Don't ever let this happen again. Shame on both you teams, and we'll get to PBJ here in a little bit.
Fox on both your houses.
Melon Ballers.
Oh wait, there one more. Merrill, you had a Brad Caver double down. Certainly, podcasters is the toughest division.
I'm gonna brag on that. I think it is by far.
Even with this 57-point disgrace here?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have more than 1 touchdown every week. I think with TDJ, Hillers, and I think Winier will be a good team. I think they'll be a respectable team, somewhere around 500. I feel like potentially.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not feeling as strong about it as I did last week. I'll tell you that.
This is your prank. I'm not feeling
Maybe
strong
I'll
about it.
double down then. Is that a double down? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it has to be. With you
Melon
brag
ballers.
on 2 of the 4 teams.
Let's get into the Chupa Libres here, who beat the Feisty Goats 97 to 88.5 due to a good Monday night performance from their kicker and Wes Welker. Kicker got 17 points. They go to 1-3 on the year. They get their first win coming back in the league, and they're in last place, but they're only 2 games back from the Sex Cannons here. They are the minigame winner for the highest scoring defense, so congrats to them on that. I'm not sure, Hillers, what's the prize for that? $20, $25, something like that?
$10.
Congrats on $10. Way to go. Buy yourself something nice. Anthony, what do we think? We were pretty high on the Chupa Libres last week. They put up pretty much the exact same performance this week. They're like a high 90s every week kind of team. Is this what we can expect every week from them?
Well, yeah. I mean, this team is Mr. Consistency. 90, 98.5, 103.3, and 97. No, those are not radio stations. Those are the 3 scores of Chupa Libres over the past 3 weeks. I mean, you are scoring around 100 points every week, and you got to be happy about that. And I think that the points and the breakdown show that, whereas the winning percentage does not show that, with winning percentage at only 0.25 here. So the dominoes will start falling his way if he continues to score this way, and there's no reason to think that he shouldn't. I mean, he put up 100 points, and his number 1/number 2 wide receiver put up 0. And he had 2 terrible running backs in there.
Yeah,
So
with a 31-point receiver on the bench, that he started last week. So
yeah. So you kind of work out some of those kinks, the little kinks there, and now you're looking. I wouldn't start Antonio Brown this week playing in London, but moving forward, I think you do. Aside from that week, and now he just builds on it. So I like Chupa Libres.
Would you start Nix over Brown?
No. Wait.
I mean, who would Hakeem Nicks? Who do you start over Antonio Brown?
Ooh, that's a really hard one. So fortunately, in a bye week season, you probably have to start.
I don't know, man.
It makes it easy.
Nix is definitely on the verge of being in a timeout for a few weeks until the Giants get their business together.
I think maybe you try to move if you just
With
take
guys like Golden Tate even on the bench. You know what I mean? I would start Golden Tate over Hakeem Nicks right now.
I think you take him out of the equation and try to trade him for like some running back depth if you're JD on this team. Because Nix is a guy that he's good when he's good, but he's too inconsistent week to week. I don't personally want to have to make that decision. So you move him for maybe a running back that gives you lower but more consistent points that builds out your depth. Because he's pretty deep at wide receiver. Why have to make that hard choice every week? That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, if he can do that, why not?
He doesn't need to start him. I mean, he's got startable running backs here. He's got Trent Richardson on the bench. He doesn't need to start 3 wide receivers. James Jones and Wes Welker are fine. That's a great 1-2 right there.
Yeah, okay.
I think this team is only going to go up. This is not the cap of their performance.
I think this team, this is their performance. And Anthony, you say, high 90s, low, right around 100 points is enough, and it's not. I can tell you because that's where I was all last season, and I won 2 games. It's not enough in this league anymore. Teams are averaging. The average score every week is close to 105 points. I mean, it's not enough to score below average every week. And I know you don't like my average statistic that I use, but
it's terrible.
That's the. I mean, this week, yeah, it worked out. It was a low-scoring week, but you look at the other weeks. I mean, it's not enough. You need to put up 110, 120, not consistently, but if you want to win games and you want to make a run at this thing, you've got to be able to.
I believe this is a team that can do that. Little tip though, you don't need 3 quarterbacks.
So Mike, Dave is over 500 in the breakdown. He's 17, 6, and 1 tie in the breakdown.
And JD.
And he's JD, and he's doing that at 100 points. I mean, I think 100 points is just a little bit above average, which the breakdown shows that.
It's not sustainable. I don't think it is. I mean, I haven't been scoring this. I mean, I've been scoring a few points below this for the last 2 seasons. It's not sustainable. He's got to have, and maybe the
judging
Trent
people
Richardson,
on your rate of failure is not an acceptable metric.
Well, maybe that's true, but
you've got something else going on.
But I'm in here twice. I'm not sure how that worked. But so yeah, I think this team is a good team, and they're going to need some favorable matchups in order to make a run at this thing. And maybe Trent Richardson moving to Indy will give him that boost that he needs for that extra 5, 6, 7 points a game that that he could use. I mean, I don't think that's all of it, but and Antonio Brown, if he does finally break through, then this could be helpful too. I will say, you got to dump either Roethlisberger or Schaub. You don't need 3 quarterbacks on your team. I feel like you're wasting a roster spot on a position on 2 guys that you're really never going to play for one, and you could pick up off waivers if you drop them. So.
Oh, I need to go back just one team here for a real quick Brad Caver double down for Anthony. You said Winier is a very solid team. There's 57-point disaster here. Is that very solid?
What's your question?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Winier is a very solid team. Are you caving or doubling down that it is a solid team? You can't brag on this.
I can't brag on that one.
Well, 57 is not a solid score, clearly, but I think it's still a solid team. What hurts him a lot is the injury now.
So I hear double down.
I'll go double down. I'll go double down.
All right. That way to show the chutzpah there.
That's yeah, there'll be some chutzpah.
All right. Sex Cannons, next team here. Evan's team, which we all love talking about so much. Good thing
Lonesome pile.
Good thing for a lot of us who hate seeing Evan win all the time. He did lose this week to the Bad Dicks, 92.1 to 129.6. Ran up against the Buzzsaw. Falls to 3-1 on the year with his first loss, but he's still in first place and 1 game up in the division. Hillers. I think Evan's team is not that good this year. You were a big CJ Spiller fan coming in and felt like he was going to be a big-time player for Evan.
I bet big on him in a couple of leagues.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did, and it's bad.
Do you still think Evan's team is something? Do you still think this team is someone to be kind of afraid of playing?
Yeah. I don't think they're the unstoppable juggernaut they were last season. I mean, other than Peyton Manning, who I would say is probably overperforming, I think each of these guys has probably been underperforming this year. And there's a number of committee situations in play that he's going to have to manage probably all season. And so that's bad, okay? But this is a 92-point performance still, with guys underperforming, and he even had a goose egg in here and C.J. Spiller putting up a 1. But you know what? He's got Fred Jackson in there. If Spiller's hurt, if anything, it helps him out because now he knows who to start. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's still a very good team.
Anthony, what do you think about Evan's team? Is it still, is this a top-tier team?
It is still a top-tier team. Peyton Manning makes it a top-tier team. Yeah. And you know what? He had a savvy – I don't know if he got lucky, if it really truly was a savvy pick on Joique Bell, who, he's there to stay in Detroit. I mean, Reggie Bush – even without durability problems, I think Joique Bell is gonna get a lot of the goal line work, and he's gonna be involved in the game. So there's your flex guy.
I hope not. It's freaking touchdown vulture.
And I'll agree with what Hiller said about the Spiller Fred Jackson issue. It's nice that he's got both, especially when one is clearly out and one isn't. But I think maybe the problem is Andre Johnson. I think he just have some kind of like a leg injury, and now he's
always got some kind of
He's hurt. Ray Rice and Bernard Pierce. That's a mess.
So the issue with Evans' team, I think, is depth. I don't think that he has the guy to start. He doesn't have too much depth on the team. He's got a lot of handcuffs, but not a lot of depth. So you lose Andre Johnson, and now it's sort of like, do you start one of those handcuffs? Do you roll with a guy like Cordell Patterson, Chris Givens? I'm not sure. I don't trust either of them just yet in fantasy. So he might have to do a little bit of waiver wire work.
Yeah, I think this is kind of right now. Like you said, Peyton Manning. It's easy to, I guess, miss him at the top of that scoring chart there. The guy putting up 3 or 4 touchdowns every game, but his running back core is, I've been saying it all year. It's not great, and Fred Jackson's actually been better than C.J. Spiller this year. Spiller has, even when he's played and been healthy, has not been that good.
It's a
3.5 points the first week, and 1 point last week. He got hurt, and then 11.7 the week before. But everybody thought he was going to get, have kind of a stranglehold on this job and run away with it, and he's not. If anything, Fred Jackson has been the more valuable player this year. So, this gives him a reason to put Fred Jackson in, I guess, and that's lucky. They're saying Ray Rice is going to play this week, so that's nice. But this team isn't a team that I think. That I'm afraid of playing every team, but this team is nowhere near what it was last year, and I don't think Evan's really concerned at this point. But like you said, he's got Andre Johnson hurt, shin bruise, Spiller hurt. And if Reggie Bush comes back and Joyke Bell is invaluable, what does he do? And I don't know. I think this team's not in trouble, but I think this team is working hard right now to field a competent competitor.
Hey, so if Joyke Bell and Jaquiz Rogers adopted like a boy, what would he name that kid? What would they name that kid?
Joyquiz.
Yeah.
No?
That's probably right.
Yeah. Jeff.
Jack Oik.
Bill. I'm not gonna name her Joey Quiz. It's ridiculous.
Moving on.
Moving on. The late Sabertooth Tigers. I still hate that name. He came into this week and lost to Touchdown Jesus. So at the business end of that beating, he scored 70 points to his 125.1. He goes to 2-2 in second place, one game back of Evan in the division. Anthony. Nick's team came out pretty strong, but Kaepernick has struggled recently. And Ridley and his running backs are kind of a disaster here. Should Nick be concerned, or what do you think about Nick's team?
Man, I still rate him high in the power rankings, but I'm not sure why I should. There's a lot of evidence pointing towards a sharp decline in this team in the near future. Here's a couple of points here. You got a breakdown percentage of under 500. So it seems that at what is he 2-2? Well, it's about 500, but it's below. So I don't know. So maybe that's all right. But I think he's
over 100 the first 2 weeks in points.
Right. So then you got Ridley, who's been severely underperforming. They have 1,000 different running backs in New England. What else is new? But they're all running strong. Even in a time when you think the running backs should be doing well because they're having so many like dropsy problems in the passing game, the running backs are still not doing all that well, and especially Ridley. Moreno. It's that whole rock paper scissors jam, and then Chris Ivory not being the guy he thought it would. I think it's time, despite what I said in week 1, it's time to start Lamar Miller with confidence every week, despite damn you Thomas. Despite him,
the touchdown vulture.
He is. He is guts.
You take Miller every week, and then you pick one of the other guys. Maybe based on the matchup, and then you roll with your 3 powerhouse wide receivers there. Hey,
let me ask you, Anthony. Would you, when you say one of the other guys, would Kenbrell Tompkins with 16 points this last week be one of those other guys?
Yes.
Okay, because last week you said Brad Caber doubled down. Tompkins in the lineup is Nick Nalysis.
Hey, you know what? I also said that Nick might have been ahead of the curve in a couple of instances.
No.
It just takes us
or double down. Tompkins
in
the lineup that you just said he should be in is that Nick Nalysis.
I'm going to cave on that one.
Yeah, you better.
Stupid video. Stupid recording.
Got you on that one.
Well, it's funny with Tompkins because this is the first week Nick's at him, and it's the first week he actually was good. So
that's delicious.
Not that I guess I don't know who he would have started him over. Maybe you start benching Ridley until he does something. But this team,
it's crazy. Everyone was like Stephen Ridley and Lamar Miller. Nick got them both. These are the kings of the draft. This is incredible.
Not everybody.
Well, not everybody, but most people. And I think Belial Powell might have been one of the last running backs taken. At $6, and right now I'd rather start him than either of those 2 guys.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate how much underperformance versus hype that Nick has run into, except for Jordan Cameron, which might be a real gem there.
What about Kaepernick, Hillers? Are you concerned about him at all?
Oh, big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there just wasn't a huge sample size of games for the amount of hype that he had, and I think a big performance against Green Bay had everybody saying, "Oh, okay, wow, this is the greatest quarterback ever." But I mean, that's the Green Bay defense. It's not the Seahawks defense, and it's not the Colts defense, against which he managed no more than 3 points for either one. So I mean, until he can prove to be consistent, especially if it's a tough defensive matchup, I think you got to go with Vic.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of his value last year came from running, and he's not really doing that a lot this year. And people always assumed because he ran a lot last year, he was able. It's kind of like with RG3, right? He ran a lot last year.
Very similar.
But he was really good when he passed because they had to account for the run. Well, now he's not really running, and he's kind of turned into this pocket passer. People just assumed he could do it, and maybe not. He had that good week 1, but maybe not. Yeah, this team, I was never crazy about this team. You know, Nick always does pretty well in fantasy. He's kind of got a weird method to his madness, and he always
Nick
does pretty
Analysis.
well. Nick
Total
Analysis,
analysis.
exactly. But this week you had one touchdown other than Cameron, and you end up right at that 70-point barrier with when that happens a lot. So, not a great week for you, Nick. But I think we all think you'll do better than this in the future.
I'd like to chime in on the Kaepernick thing, by the
Sure,
way.
yeah.
So I think the 49ers might want to pick me up as like a consultant because I've been saying for years
Sure,
that
you're at the top of their list.
Vernon Davis is one of the most talented players in the NFL. And look at look at these last 3 games. Don't look at last year because that doesn't count. But these 3 games, when Vernon Davis does well, when you get him involved in the offense, you win your games, and you score a lot of fantasy points. When you relegate him to a blocking role and then have him go get injured, then you do poorly. And that's what
go get injured.
Yeah, I think that was one of the plays. Vernon Davis, on break on 2.
Yeah.
Dustin Keller says any tight end good through 3 weeks is bound to be excellent all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From last year, he says that. He came back.
Yeah, and maybe it's the lack of weapons,
Here's the other thing I'll say about Kaepernick. Look at his first 3 games. Green Bay and Seattle, tough games. Games that he's going to have to be mobile, tough defenses. Indianapolis, I'm
Green
not sure.
Bay is not a tough defense. I can't, in good conscience, say that their defense is getting it done this season.
So my point is, they had 3 tough games. The Niners had 3 tough games starting the year, where they would have to put up points to keep pace with the other team's opposing offense, which might put Kaepernick in situations that he's not comfortable. Now he's got 5 games against sort of bottom-rung teams, and I think you're going to see Kaepernick's performance improve, the 49ers' defense improve, and we'll start seeing maybe the old school or last year's Kaepernick.
Would you start him next week?
Yeah, that said, I might just roll with Vic. Oh, wait, no. Take that back. Denver defense is pretty damn solid. I start Kaepernick again.
Okay. I think Nick is rolling towards Vic. I think he's considering Vic his starter and Kaepernick.
I start Vic next week.
So a little free advice for Nick, though. Denver has the number 1 rushing defense and a pretty solid passing defense as well. So.
Well, the stat on the rushing defense is kind of bogus because it's not that their defense is good; it's that they go up 17-0 in about 4 minutes.
People do not run.
Teams have to pass to catch up.
So what's going to be different about this week then?
Nothing, but that's good for Vic because he'll be throwing a lot. So bad for McCoy, but good for Vic. And we can get into that in the previews a little bit maybe. But PBJ is our final team. I feel like they're always the team we do last year. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they put up 51 points this week and lost to Lignay. They called a 2-2 on the year, second place and 1 game back. Hillers, what can we say about Brett's team? That's
Well, I'm going to ask you something about what you said, Merrill. Brad Caper doubled down. Arian Foster is fine.
Bragg.
At 52 yards? Really? That's a number 1 running back to you? 52 yards.
Look, what were his other 2 weeks?
When his backup has 4.3?
You're looking at 1 week. I'm looking at more than 1 week when I say that, but
okay, 9 points, 16 points, and 5 points. That's fine for a number 1 running back?
Yeah,
well,
I think so.
I'd take the 9 and the 16.
Yeah, I think that's fine. So you want to get into it? Let's get into touches again, okay? Arian Foster, the first 3 weeks, had 24.
Not just about touches. He does not look the same.
Okay, well, not all of us are as good at scouting as you are and NFL running back abilities, but I'm just going to go by opportunity, and what you want in your RB1 is opportunity, and everybody was worried with Arian Foster because Ben Tate is the next best running back, to come into the NFL, and he's going to take everything from him. But so Arian Foster touches 24, 20, 13. Last year his touches 27, 34, 26, 25, 30. So there are a few less touches, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Houston is not able to get up on teams and run. They're having to keep up passing, and they're just not running as much as they used to. Ben Tate's carries this year 11, 12, 12, and last year was 8, 16, 8, 7 for his first 4 games. So Ben Tate not really getting that many more touches this year than he did last year. What's different is they're just not running as much as they did last year. So That's all I'm going to say. Arian Foster is a legit. I think it's a buy low for Arian Foster. Brett, you want to trade him? I'm looking at.
He'll go right
I'll
to the
take-
0-12 team.
I'll take Arian Foster
He'll be running right to
off your hand because I think everybody's looking for him to be so done, and I think he's going to be just fine.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. Is it Gary Kubiak? Yeah, is Gary Kubiak retarded? Because
I
I'm
don't
reading
know.
this. I'm reading this newsbreaker, and here's some quotes from Gary Kubiak. Run the ball more, and then the last one. It's got to be a typo, but I kind of hope it's not because he says, "Not help teams beat us." What the hell is this guy talking about?
I think the person who wrote it might be more to blame on those.
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
I'm blaming
that's
Gary.
Gary Kubiak. That's how he
Well,
talks.
so here's the
Well,
thing. You
like
gotta
he
blame
said,
Gary
run the ball
Kubiak.
more. They're not running the ball more.
Yeah, not help teams beat us.
No, you didn't say it right. It's run the ball more.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so that said, I also blame PBJ for having that kind of dealing with that kind of crap on his team, which leads to the 51.7 points. When you're taking that kind of coaching advice, it leads to that kind of score.
Yeah, and he started the Giants' defense, which I don't know why you would ever do that.
That's
I'm
a
confused by that.
disaster. You're going to need to head to the waivers on that one. That is not a defense. you can
Also,
move
I
forward
think
with.
you've been counseling him, Hillers. He started Willis McGahee over Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, and I'm not sure what the deal with that one is either.
I would have started him too. I mean, he's a starting running back on a team that runs, and Ben Jarvis Green Ellis is a fadey backup sort of guy. He got lucky by having a
It's a
touchdown.
what? A fade?
Fadey, as in he's almost incorporeal, like fading away.
He's like Marty McFly halfway through
It's
Back
not
to the Future Part
fading.
1.
It's like Law Firm, the Happy Ghost.
I cannot wait till Week 10 and Ben Jarvis Green Ellis is still getting, still gets 2 touchdowns
One of us,
in the game.
yeah, one of us will be vindicated at
Yes.
that time, and I'm not worried about it. One thing I am worried about is Brian gave her double down. I don't know why I even gave this one to myself. I said Cecil Shorts is a recipe for disaster. This week he put up 14 points. I'm still going to double down on that one, though. The Jags are terrible. They got some very lucky situations this week. Still, just not a guy you're going to be able to count on very often.
So
Yeah,
what's
but Blaine Gabbert is coming back this week, though. So
Oh,
maybe,
good! Blaine Gabbert's coming to save us.
Maybe Shorts' luck will change.
He had Blaine Gabbert last year, Hillers, and you loved him last year. What's changed?
I don't know. He picked up a big pile of suck along the way. I mean, he had he had 2 games with Blaine Gabbert against the Chiefs and Oakland, which aren't exactly killer teams, and it's just
Chiefs
not
have a good
getting it
defense.
done. I'm panicking on Cecil Shorts. I like Cecil Shorts. I don't want to panic, but I am.
Well, good news, he's got Justin Blackman coming back soon. So
I'm a
that should
DEFCON
help.
3 on Cecil
I-
Shorts. He's not droppable, but
What about one more thing on Brett's team? Doug Martin. Are we worried they're changing quarterbacks in Tampa Bay now? Do you think that's going to hurt the offense at all, like the pieces around him?
should help Doug Martin. Glennon is in there, I would think.
Anthony?
I mean, you can't get much worse than Freeman was, so it can only help.
Yeah. Yeah, Martin's been 10, 14, 10. That's fine.
Hey, I do want to say, I don't really care too much about kickers, but Phil Dawson, you might gotta get rid of. I just don't see the Niners.
how
I
dare
don't
you
know.
insult Phil Dawson?
I don't know. He wasn't. I just don't like the way
You
he
bite
looks.
your tongue.
Well, again, though, the Niners, just in general, with the Seahawks and the Colts, had a couple of bad weeks.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
But
Okay.
why not bail on a kicker that's sucking?
Yeah.
Pick up another one. Whatever. Everybody likes picking up players. Okay, let's get into our power rankings, gentlemen. We'll go 12-7, then 6-1 in successional order, and we will start with Hillers this week. Who do you got after the Feisty Goats at 12?
Do we want to do CBS this week, or just assume that?
No,
No,
we
they're
got to rip through it.
worthless.
Okay, well, let's rip through it. At 12, Feisty Goats. At 11, we have PBJ. Big drop this week because of their god-awful performance. At 10, we have the Duplex. At 9, we have Winier. At 8, we have the Tigers. And at 7, EBS.
Oof, that sucks.
Tigers at 8. That's
You're
a big-
lucky I didn't drop you down more. CBS had you at like 11.
Anthony.
Okay, so at 12, I got the Duplex. 11, PBJ. 10, the Goats. 9, the Winier, Master of Elegance. The Ocho is TDJ. And 7, EBS.
I'm not sure how you would put. I've won 2 of my last 23 regular season fantasy football games. I'm not sure how you would
that's 12.
have me anywhere but 12. But okay.
That's a 12er.
I mean, thank
Well, you
you.
didn't
I
put up
guess.
51 points.
True, but I had the same result as somebody who did.
True.
So 12, I've got me, Feisty Goats, at 11, Dave, 10, Winye, Masters of Elegance. They're kind of bouncing up and down, and just like the next team, the Dad Dicks, who I don't know. I think part of it is we don't really know what Grimes is going to do as an owner either. You know, how his midseason moves are going to pan out and stuff.
He doesn't have any hype yet.
Yeah. 8, I've got PBJ, and at 7, I have the Chupa Brace. Hillers.
All right.
I just did mine.
6 through 1.
Oh. Well, it goes fast. All right. At 6, I have TDJ. At 5, I have Dad Dicks. At boy, that's intimidating, right? 5 of them. Anyway, Chupa Brace. I have at 4. At 3, I have the Cannons. At 2, I have the Assassins, which has got to be the first time that's ever happened. Just for this upcoming
that's
week.
Really surprising. Yeah.
And at 1, myself still.
Okay.
All right. The 6, I have the Chupa Brace. 5, Assassins. I hate putting them that low. By the way, Assassins for me have gone 12-6, 12-5, so I don't know.
Clearly undecided.
4, I have Dad Dicks. 3, the Tigers. 2, the Cannons, and 1, Hillers.
Okay. Hillers, where'd you have the Cannons? 3?
3, yeah.
Okay. 6, I have EBS. Anthony's bouncing around on me. 5, I have Assassins. I think I've had them there for a while. 4, I have the Sex Cannons. That's the lowest I think any of us have had them in a long time. At 3, I've got the Tigers, just because somehow Nick pulls stuff out. At 2, I have TDJ, who is 1-3 on the year. I've got them at 2, and Hillers, I've got you 1. I don't know if there's. I think it's Hillers and everybody else fighting for second right now. So, predictions. Let's roll into those. Rip through them here. Goats versus EBS. Podcast battle. I'm going to say right now, as indicated by my message board post, this is when I cash in my do factor, and I put up a 125 spot on you and crush you, Anthony.
Historically, Merrill, despite your horrible losses, have always beaten me for some reason. So there's no reason to think that's going to change. So I'm going with the Goats.
Yeah, there's a reason to think it's gonna change. But
there's about 4 reasons this year.
Yeah, there's just this year there's plenty of reasons. But I can't pick you, Merrill. You're 12th. You're the unluckiest team I've ever seen. I gotta go with DBS here.
Okay. Next, Goats at Winye, Masters of Elegance. I'm gonna say Daryl Richardson out. That hurts him, but maybe Gronk comes back, maybe not. But I think with the big week I just predicted for my team, I got to pick my team again here. So Goats go 2-0 this week. Get to 2-4, baby.
Yep, I agree.
I'm going to take you in this one too, Merrill. That 57% point performance left a real bad taste in my mouth.
You are very reactionary, Hillers. You
I
are
am.
nothing if not reactionary.
That's my style.
All right,
That's how I
Dad Dicks
roll.
versus the Assassins is our next game. Dad Dicks have Steve Smith on bye, and the Assassins are missing Steven Jackson this week, but Le'Veon Bell is back for Dad Dicks, and I think he has slotted in his flex spot here. Big edge for Dad Dicks based on CBS. The Saints versus Miami, though, is a bad matchup, so I'm going to say the Assassins win this, but it's going to be a close game around the 100-point mark.
Don't forget that also Jordy Nelson's out for the Assassins, which means that he has to put old Santana Moss in there. And as good as he is, I got to go with the Dicks.
He in the Twilight, too?
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for similar reasons, and the matchups really aren't too bad for Dad Dicks, so I'm going to go and take them.
Okay, even though you said I have Assassins at 3, mainly because of this week?
No, I said for this week they are at 3.
Okay.
Not suggesting they'll be 3 after this week, necessarily.
Hillers versus TDJ. Of our buys we're looking at, Hillers has Aaron Rodgers on a bye and Danny Amendola out again, most likely. Where TDJ is missing Cam Newton, so you caught him on a good week there, Hillers. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, despite the fact that they're both missing the quarterbacks. And I think TDJ, I'm sorry, ekes it out in like a 120 to 115 type score.
So the thing that I don't like about Hiller's matchups is that most of them are away. That's just a little thing that I like to look at, and therefore I'm going to give TDJ the edge because most of his better players are playing at home.
Yeah, I think I got to take him in this matchup too. I hate my matchups. I'm not thrilled about my lineup. The injuries might come home to roost a little bit at playing an elite quarterback like Sam Bradford.
How uneasy do you get when Aaron Rodgers isn't in your lineup? Like, does it like freak you out? Do you lose hair that week? Like,
I start shaking a little bit. I lose a few pounds.
I mean, that's a rough week for you.
I have night sweats.
Duplex of mediocrity at the Winier Masters of Elegance. Day will be missing D'Angelo Williams, possibly Vernon Davis, and definitely Eddie Lacy, who is on bye. I'm going to say that he will not be able to overcome that, even though he's starting to red rocket at quarterback. And I'm going to say that the Winier beats Dave in the lowest scoring game of the week.
I don't know how the Winier is going to put up points this week. I don't expect Richardson to be 100%.
Alex Smith is playing the Giants.
Sean Jackson's going to put up 25
points.
Easy.
No, that's the thing. I mean, Denver's defense, I think, is just too strong, and if that's the core of his scoring ability, I just don't see the Winier pulling it out. So I'm going with the duplex, despite him being my number 12 in the power rankings.
You don't see the Winier pulling out, huh?
Nope, never.
Just gonna stay in there.
That's how the Masters of Elegance do things.
Okay, that does sound elegant. But I'm going to go with the duplex on this one. I think they just have a more solid lineup and slightly better matchups all the way down.
Light Saber-Tooth Tigers versus Peanut Butter Jelly Time in a low-scoring game based on predictions here. This is maybe the lowest of ever.
This is going to be crap.
Wow, this is a running back disaster. Well, except for Aaron Foster, I guess. But
no, you had it right.
No, I'm just looking at Nick's team. Never mind. Doug Martin and Arian Foster are fine. What did I have here? I think I have. Well, Nick's going to be missing Cobb, and I think Vincent Jackson might be hurt a little bit by the new QB. So I'm going to say Nick wins a low-scoring game, and he should start Colin Kaepernick this week. Do not start Michael Vick.
I'm going to disagree. Start Michael Vick, definitely. You don't start Kaepernick. And I'm going to say that Nick wins, let's say, 62 to 59.
Hillers, I might agree with that score. I do think you start Kaepernick if you're Nick. I think Nick pulls it out, unlike the Winier, but he pulls it out. Wait, did I say the Winier pulls it out? I don't know. He's going to pull it out.
They leave it in there.
Oh, okay.
That's
that's what he said.
of elegance.
Low-scoring affair, though. I see big performances, respectively, from Cap and Lamar Miller.
Okay.
Everybody else is going to be terrible.
You said to bench Kaepernick not a half hour ago.
No, I said you got to keep him in.
Yeah, the Rams are a terrible pass defense.
All right. So people tomorrow, go ahead and rewind your YouTubes and see if that's actually.
I definitely said put him in.
Okay.
Sex Cannons at Los Chupanibres, going to the Nibres Dome here. Sex Cannons are pretty banged up right now with Spiller, Ray Rice, Andre Johnson, Jermichael Finley, but the Chupanibres are missing James Starks and James Jones. They're two packaged James. And Sex Cannons I have winning this game, mainly because it's Evan and things just kind of work out for him. And JD has not proven to have good luck over anyone except me in this league, which isn't really that much of an accomplishment.
I'm going to go with the knee brace on this one because I think that they're really shorting people like the Bears defense and even Rashard Mendenhall and Trent Richardson against the Jags. Who knows? that could be 30 points. So
could be.
I predict
a bit of an upset.
I predict that all of Evans' guys that are questionable, aside from Finley, are going to play. But they're going to be a little bit more limited than we anticipate, therefore giving Chupanibres the edge, including a pretty big performance out of Matt Ryan, which might be a really, really fun game to watch in Atlanta.
Wow, I think we got a lot of different opinions on games for once. This is nice. Next game is the Dad Dicks at the Chupanibres. And the Saints versus Miami. Again, tough matchup here for the Dad Dicks. So I'm going to go with the Chupanibres in this one.
I'm going to switch my opinion. I mean, I do like the Chupanibres this week, but I think Dad Dix has a stronger week, so I'm going to go with them in a close victory.
McFadden versus Washington, you got to love.
Yeah, I also think that I picked the Dad Dicks to beat the Assassins. I picked the Chupanibres to beat Cannons. So it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be high scoring, and I think the Dad Dicks edges it out.
Just by a couple inches, huh?
Well, by the CBS
points,
version of
points.
Edge.
I'm sorry.
Come on, Merrill. Yeah. You're bad at innuendo.
If it's only an Edge in CBS, it means like 50 points. So.
Right. All right, Assassins at Hiller's Epidemic. The Assassins, again, will be missing Steven Jackson and Jordy Nelson, while Hiller's is missing Aaron Rodgers and Danny Amendola. Hiller's, I think this is where you take your first loss. I'm going to take the Assassins in a big game.
Both
big
my
comeback
losses.
game
You
for
also
Tom
predict
Brady.
me losing the first one. So.
Oh, yeah. So, well, but this one you're going to lose first.
Okay.
So, big game from Tom Brady Sunday night. He's going to throw maybe a touchdown or two to Gronk, and it's going to be the end of you.
I think I can pull this one out. I'm going to take myself. I got 1-1 this week.
I'm torn on this one because here's something I didn't mention in the other Assassins
Sounds
game.
painful.
AP is playing in, and AP doesn't mean me, Anthony Porcelli, but Adrian Peterson. Okay.
Really?
Thank you for clarifying.
Playing in London, and honestly, history shows that London games are boring as hell, and it rains all the time. So I don't think that AP is going to have the day that you expect out of him. However, I do think that the shootout will ensue in Atlanta, and Tom Brady will beat Hillers into the ground.
Into the ground, you say?
Into the ground.
Sounds like some wishful thinking. Someone's maybe a little sore grapes there.
That's bad. End Zone Bombardment Squad at Peanut Butter Jelly Time is our next game here. This is like a former rivalry kind of clash here. And let's see, End Zone Bombardment Squad isn't missing anyone. They got their full squad this week.
Full squad.
Anthony, I say you start Jaquiz Rogers over Marlon Brown, and that will lead you to a victory over Peanut Butter Jelly Time.
Is Roddy White playing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So, I don't know. Maybe put him in over Marlon Brown, but I don't think it matters. I think you take this one, Anthony.
Well, you know what? I think I might. Marlon Brown is sitting, and it's either between Jaquiz or Bradshaw for me. And Bradshaw against Jacksonville is a little tempting. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Tempting.
Well, you just said you thought it'd be a shootout in Atlanta. So
yeah,
what's with you contradicting yourself on this podcast, man?
Yeah. Well, I didn't contradict. I mean, I said Bradshaw. Bradshaw plays for Indianapolis. He could be in there.
Jaquiz.
And Jaquiz he's a passing guy. He likes
He's
catching.
a pass catching back.
He ran it pretty well last week. I was impressed. I thought he looked. I don't have the scouting ability that you have, Hillers, but I thought he looked pretty good.
But you were Jaquizzing all over yourself.
Yes.
He could be a nice keeper from here on out.
Final two games: Duplex of Mediocrity at Light Saber-Tooth Tigers. The Duplex.
Oof, this could be an
can't
ugly
believe
one.
I just said Dave's name. I messed it up. So Dave, again, Nick has RB problems. He's missing Randall Cobb, but Dave is missing Lacey and Vernon Davis, and Dave's team is bad. So I'll pick Nick.
San Francisco and St. Louis. I like that matchup. I'll take Dave.
Vernon Davis might not play.
That's fine. He's got Frank Gore and Anquan Bolden in there.
I don't even remember what I said about either of these. I think I go.
Doubleheaders are tough. You don't want to contradict yourself.
I think I go Nick on this one. I don't know why. I just go Nick.
So
that's why you pick
me,
Nick. Nick doesn't know why he does
to
have
remind
the crap
me,
he
you
does.
agreed with me when I said that Nick would win his last game by 62-59. So do you think Dave scores less than 62 points? Is what you've effectively said.
Yeah, he could.
It's possible.
He was close this week. Sex Cannons at Touchdown Jesus.
This will be right for Brad Caver Double Downs of the Future, this little prediction section.
Yeah, yes, it will. Touchdown Jesus, again, missing Cam. And Peyton Manning gets to play against Philly, who is just going to give Peyton Manning the ball more often than he already does because they work their offense so fast and they work it so fast. So that said, I'm going to pick. I think Evans seems a little too banged up at this point. Probably going back to what you said, Anthony, about his players being they'll start, but they won't be effective. So I'm going to go with TDJ. I think I have him going 2-0 this week. Coming for you, Hillers.
Compelling argument, but I think the Sex Cannons managed to win in a close victory, but
my argument was compelling.
not that compelling.
No.
You're 0-12. That's also compelling.
0-4.
I think that I liked TDJ against Hillers, so therefore I'll also pick him against the Cannons, I guess.
You're just going to
struggling for
contradict
consistency
yourself
here.
Yeah, well, especially when people are reviewing the tape to point out every damn inconsistency.
Well, now they're gonna point out your predictional cowardice that you just.
Yeah. But at least I'll be, who knows. Anyway.
All right, gentlemen, that's going to do it for this podcast. That was a long one.
It was.
So we got into a few tussles and arguments and scuffles and kerfuffles, but we made it through.
A couple of lectures on David Wilson.
Any final thoughts?
No, I don't think we have time for final thoughts.
For Anthony, who's asleep on his trophy again, and for Hillers, and for the Hankulator.
Hanker Simulator.
And
get it right.
We will talk to you guys later.